Welcome to Pampale Podcast, where we are unpacking opinions and changing destinations. I am your host, Sherley Alexander, where each week we will chat about how to rise strong out of all types of obstacles that come with relationships. Through personal life experiences and discussions ranging from infidelity, trust, forgiveness, sex, heartbreak, self-love, and so much more. I am passionate and obsessed to provide guidance to every woman to create a better life. Let's dive in, pull up a seat, make sure you're cozy, and get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn. With me, your virtual girlfriend. Welcome back to another episode of Pampale Podcast. And today for story time, we do have a special guest with us. We have Syaisha. Syaisha is a traveling CNA. She is a dog mom of 2. She loves to travel and hang out with family and friends. Syaisha, I'm going to pass you the mic and you can add on to that introduction and let the listeners know who you are a little bit more.
Okay. Hi, I'm Syaisha Alexander. I'm a CNA. I travel. I work with a couple of different agencies, and I also am a dog mom of 2. I have a Yorkie, a teacup Yorkie, and I have a pit bull mix. I also do a lot of traveling and different things like that. Um, and I have a lot of different, things going on right now as far as like um, CNA work. I'm on a assignment right now for 13 weeks in New Jersey. I go to different states and do different traveling assignments that are basically help with the COVID patients. I've been doing that for about like 3, 4 years now, and I really like it.
Wonderful. Thank you
And
for
that's a little
sharing
bit
that,
about me.
Sai. So I'm going to
Hmm.
pass you the mic again, and you are going to start with your story
Okay.
and share with us what brought you on the show today.
Well, what brought me on the show today, I wanted to talk a little bit about like different relationships far as my age generation, different things that we experience. I know a lot of other, women experience different things, a lot of older women, but it's a lot of young women out there that don't like to share their stories or different things like that, or they're stuck in abusive relationships that they can't get out of, or past relationships that they can't get over. And I think that I would have like, some good things to talk about to try to maybe help somebody else, or somebody else might have similar story of what they're going through or what they've been through, that they can relate to what I've been through. So
Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, and if you want to share with us, Sai, how old are you?
I'm 31 right now. I'll be 32 in December.
Okay. So
So I've been
um,
through, yeah, a lot.
you've been through a lot. Well, we're going to hear some of the things that you've been through, and I'm glad that you are comfortable and willing to share some of your experiences because we all learn from each other. And no relationship is perfect, and in every situation you're in, you're learning as you're growing, so this is good. So share with us your your relationship story.
Yeah, so it was just a lot. I was in high school, young, just starting out dating relationships, and I had a particular relationship that was very abusive, cheating, a baby, and you do everything for somebody, and then it just they don't care. They just do whatever they want, and that drove me into like mental depression, anxiety. I deal with all of that, and I'm still dealing with it, and it's been years, and I still have to deal with, you know, the I'm not abuse anymore, but it still haunts me sometimes in my past, and I'm doing different things, healing, and I'm doing a lot of like therapy to, work through it, and it's not easy because then you bring it into relationships that you had before because you don't understand it's hard to trust anybody else because you're going through whatever you went through in your past. It's hard to trust in your future. which I'm dealing with now, which I'm working on currently.
You're correct. A lot of times,
So,
when you start a new relationship, you're bringing in past baggage into the new relationship, what makes it hard
right,
because you're either unhealed stepping into the new relationship, and that is not only detrimental for you, but it's also detrimental for your new partner. So, you said in high
right.
school is the first relationship you touched on. How old were you?
I was like 17, going on 18, and it was a lot. It was dealing with high school stuff on top of, like, he was just, it was a lot. It was just a lot.
How old
You know,
was
when you're
he?
in high school, different thing. Well, we were the same age,
Okay.
but we were from two different towns, two different family lifestyles. So he wasn't used to what I was used to.
Okay, gotcha. Now, so the listeners can better understand, you said it was a lot. So define what you mean by a lot. You said you were abused. Were you abused emotionally, physically, mentally, verbally?
Um, I was abused physically, mentally, verbally, every way you want to put it. Like, abusive, far as hands put on, far as just talking down on me, saying I'm never going to be nothing. Nobody ever wants you. Just like a lot of different things. And verbal is always like the mouth, just cursing and yelling and screaming and fighting and just everything like that. And it was it was very toxic, very toxic.
So from 17 to how old this relationship lasted?
About 9 years.
You were
Me
with
into
this person
going
for
into
nine
college, I
years.
dropped. Yes, from 17 for 9 years. Yes,
So you were 26 years old. You're
long time.
31 now. Okay, so Syaisha,
Yes.
I know your mother. Was your mother aware of this?
Mhm.
Okay.
She was aware of it. Yep.
She and I'm assuming knowing your mom, she gave you the best advice that she probably knew how to give. Am I correct?
Yeah, but
And
in high school, right, right, and in high school, you don't listen. I didn't listen to my mom. I moved out, got my own apartment, dropped out of college, told my mom I'm leaving, moved in with him and his family, lost everything I had, and I went through a mental depression. I went like I had to go into a psych ward for months, and I couldn't get right because I was just so physically and mentally torn up. It was a lot.
gotcha. So 17, 18, 18. I'm assuming you graduated high school. So what? How old were you when you moved
Hmm.
in with his family? And when you say his family, was it his mom, his dad, or was it just mom, just dad? Who was it?
Mom, sister, brother.
So what you guys went from house to
That was it.
house?
No, I moved in. I moved out of my mom's house and went to their house.
So whose house did you move in first? Did you move into his parents' home, like where his parents still
His
married?
mom's.
His mom's
Yes.
house. Okay.
No, it's just his mom.
Just
No
his mom.
dad.
Okay. And you move in with mom. You left your mom's house at about 18, we'll say.
Mhm.
And you moved in with this young man and his mother. And the abuse was already starting in that situation. Now, we've all been 18. We've
Yeah.
all made poor decisions. Even me as a mother, Sai, you know, my two little ones. And, I'm definitely not perfect
Right.
sitting here talking to you. So I know many of us have made poor judgment. What was going through your mind at this time? And why did you feel as though leaving your mother's house was the best decision possible if you were already physically and verbally in a situation that you were not happy with?
I think it was more so. I think it was more so that I was young and I wanted to experience being not with my mom, and I was just so mentally attached to this person. Like he was everything. Like My whole world was revolved around the person, and I was not worried about what my mom think or anybody else. I didn't care. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do at the time.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. And when you moved in with him and his mother, how were things then? Did things change or they just stayed the same? And did he abuse you in front of his mom?
it was never more so in front of his mom. It was more so when people were not around. It wasn't more so like in front of his mom. It was more so like when people weren't around, and the abuse was inside the house too when I lived with them, but it wasn't at like when we were around people, it wasn't as bad. You would not know until unless I said something or something like that. It was when we were by ourselves is when it start to like you said this, you said that, you did this, you did that, your friend said this, your friend said that, and it just blew up. And I did have one. It was one incident when his mom was there, but his mom was just not having it. She's like, I think you should go back home. I don't think you should be here because this is not safe as a woman." She didn't know what was going on because it was when when nobody was around. So she didn't know until I physically told her physically, and she saw it the one day, and then that's when she's like, "No, I think it's better for you to go home."
Okay. And when she said that to you, what did you do? Did you leave?
I called, I called my mom and went home.
And was that
But
around
I
the
still
nine
was
years?
talking to, yeah, I was still talking to him, and my mom's like, "No, you shouldn't be talking to him," stuff like that. Then he moved away, and I still, I mean, it was bad. I still was going there, still visiting, still going around his family, still talking to him, and he was dating somebody else behind the house that he was living, and I didn't even know the girl, had a baby and everything, and I'm still out here thinking that we still together, and it wasn't never that. He was doing his own thing on the side.
Okay. With the cheating, how many years into the relationship did you find out that he was cheating?
Um, I would say 2 years.
Okay. So 2 years
And I
into the
just kept saying,
relationship.
"Oh, it's gonna change."
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say it was gonna change, it was gonna change, and never changed.
Was it several women or was it just one isolated girl?
Um, it was more than one.
Okay.
It was in the same area. They
Mm-hmm.
both lived in the same area.
Okay. It was more than one. They both.
I had girls trying to fight. Had girls try to fight me. Told me I could never come back to the area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Called me, threatening me, all kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
And I said, okay, well maybe it will change, and it never changed.
You just kept giving him a chance after chance after chance.
Yeah, until I got tired, and then I blew up, and it was just the end of it. And I said, you know what, this is not good for my heart. This is not good for my mental. I had to physically sit down and write down the good thing, make a list of the good things and the bad things. And the bad things outweighed the good things. And I talked to my mom, and I sat down to her and I told her, like, listen, this is what I need, a break. I mentally need a break. I need to go and get help to actually physically find myself again. And when I went into the psych ward, that's when I had to sit. I tried to kill myself. I tried to do a lot of different things. Is to try to just like cope, to try to make myself feel better. It was times where I hid in the closet waiting for him to come home. It was days where I climbed through his mom window, thinking that when she went away, thinking that he would, and then find him doing stuff. Like it was a lot. It was the stealing my car when I'm at work. Um, Driving without no license. He was stealing my car, driving without no license. It was a lot of different things. It was just very toxic, and I had to go and get help because I knew in my mind, like, I had to physically, at that point when I felt like I needed to, that I wanted to kill myself, I had to sit down and think like, I don't think this is worth it. I have a lot of people that's, behind my corner, in my corner, that need me. Why am I just gonna go up and try to kill myself? So I told my mom, I said, I need to go get help. And that's when I got the help. And I was in there and I, did therapy, different things like that. And now I'm over it. It's, I mean, but I still deal with depression. I still deal with anxiety. I still deal with trust issues. I still deal with like different little things. And I'm trying to grow day by day.
Hmm. Now, Sai, I'm glad that you're better now because this is something that I didn't know. And to say that you wanted to take your life over this individual, it's very frightening because it's things that as women, we put ourselves in situations that we allow somebody to physically, mentally, verbally degrade us, knowing that what is being done is wrong. And we still are trying to look at the good in someone and not separate us from that
Right.
situation. And
Right.
is what was going so through the 9 years that you were in this relationship, obviously, from what we're hearing, this was toxic in many different ways. What was keeping you? Was it the sex? What was it that was satisfying you, that was keeping you in this toxic situation year, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, to the point now you want to take your life? What was the attachment?
To be honest, I I really think I was just young. I at that age, you smelling yourself, you want to experience boys. I just thought that he cared more about me than my own family. Like it was to the point where I felt like everything had to be evolved around him. It was more a controlling kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt more attached, mentally attached. Like there was things that I seen in this person that I thought like, okay, well, maybe it would make me a better person. It didn't make me a better person. It made me less than what I was. And I don't. It wasn't. It wasn't. It had nothing to do with the sex or anything like that. I think it was just more of a mental attachment that
So
I think it was
I'm
more
gonna
so
have to ask you something.
I wasn't feeling.
I'm going to
Mhm.
ask you something. You said he showed me more love than my family. So, Sai, I do have to ask, were you not getting love and attention that you needed from others? And this person, this individual, was giving it to you? Because,
Yes.
okay. And that was
I
one,
mean,
like,
I got love from my family,
mm-hmm.
but it was more, it was different. It was different. I would say it was more like your family, they love you and stuff like that. But when you're with somebody, it's like you build for so long and you have so much in common. And it's like, but it's hard to, things coming into play that just makes it toxic, like things around you, basically. Like, I was getting it was just, I think it was more of a controlling thing. That's what I really think.
This
And I didn't
individual,
care what
from
anybody said.
what I'm hearing, this individual was definitely satisfying a need that was not being met, even you yourself.
Right? Yes.
Whatever that need may have been at the time, I don't know what the need was, but you were looking beyond everything else that you were going through. Now, so I'm going to use myself as an example. Um,
Mhm.
as I said, we all were young. I lost my virginity at 15 and
Mhm.
lost my virginity at 15, got pregnant at 17, had an abortion. And, even through doing all that, I was still able to maintain my focus. But even when I looked back, I still looked back and said, there are certain poor decisions that we make. But what we also have to remember is we're not perfect individuals. Every single one of us have made poor decisions in our young adolescent years when we were teenagers growing up. We did things that we were not supposed to do behind our parents' back because our parents telling us no to do something, we are going to do the opposite because it's better. Um, I remember the time that when we, Khalif and I finally left my mother's house. It's because I wanted to do my own and I didn't want to respect any of the rules that she set place in her house, which now that I look back and I am a mother, I realized why she set those rules. I realized that was also important. But I also have to look back and take in consideration my childhood trauma and what I went through as a child to make me act the way I was acting, which doesn't justify my actions, but all that plays a role into the decisions I was making. When Khalif and I were younger, and Khalif, we have been through all types of situations, verbal abuse, both towards each other when we were younger. The physical abuse, I wouldn't say when we were younger weren't anything crazy. As we got older, I would say we would push each other. I know when infidelity started to play a role, I would throw things, he would throw things. So I understand we all go through stuff in our relationship. Now at 39, I don't have shame in talking about certain things. There are certain things that are still private to me and him that I won't share, but a large portion of my relationship, I have no problem sharing certain details because it's going to help someone else. And I always like to let people know that I'm not perfect. I went through shit myself. I experienced shit. What you're telling me, I can totally understand. 17, 18, you don't want to listen to your mom. Your mom's telling you, no, Sai, you need to do this, this, this. In your mind, you're like, this lady's trying to control me. This guy is not. So this seems like the better option when actually it's not the better option because this person is disrespecting you verbally. Mentally, he is destroying you. He's messing up your self esteem. He's obviously probably telling you, you're not going to be anybody. No one's not going to want you. Someone who loves you is not going to say that to you. Those are just not
Right.
words of love. They are mean things that people say to you. And it doesn't have anything to do with you. It has to do with the fact that he doesn't love himself. He doesn't appreciate himself. So he's just going to take his negativity out on you because you're the closest individual to him. And he knows that the things that he says to you is going to affect you tremendously. So
Right.
I want to get into did who made the decision for you to go to a psych ward?
I did.
And you felt as though you needed to go into a psych ward where you were actually committed for like a
Mhm.
month or so? How long were you in there?
I was in there for about 3 months,
3 months. Okay. And what was that
and I
experience
stayed.
like?
I stayed. I stayed. Oh, it was rough. It was. I had a roommate there. Like when you first go in, they ask you a bunch of questions like, um, how how do you feel? They make you take your shoestrings off. First you have to do like a what do you call that, an intake, and they ask you a bunch of questions like how do you feel, how do you, like different things like that, and they try to get to the root of the problem. And then they ask you, do would you like to do inpatient, would you like to do outpatient. um you have to go to the ER, get checked out, make sure everything's healthy, and then they sign you in. At this point, they ask my mom questions. They ask her, like, different things. Did I see any signs? Do I have any plans? Um then they put me in like this padded room where they make you take off your shoestrings, make you take off your jewelry, make you take off like different things that could typically you could hurt yourself or hurt others. So I had to sit in the padded room for a while. They bring for like 2 days. They bring you food and stuff like that. The only time you could come out is when you want to talk to your mom or your dad, or if you want to use the phone, or if you have to go to therapy. But most of the time you're in that room until they feel or you feel like you're comfortable enough to be out and open with other people. Because you if I'm basically saying I wanted to hurt myself, I can hurt myself or others. But they actually and then after I was in the room for about 2 days, they put you on they try you on different medications to like calm you down. At this point, I haven't slept in days. I've just like I was going through so much. I was crying all night, couldn't sleep, didn't eat. Um, like my mind was all over the place, and I had a whole plan written out of what I was gonna do. Um, I told my mom when I was gonna do it. I told her how I was gonna do it, and she's like, "Oh no, we gotta go like ASAP."
What
So that's when
plan?
I
How
told
how
her,
you were going to
I'm
take
like,
your
"Mom,
life
I
or
gotta
take
get
his life?
no, take my own."
Gotcha.
So I had like a whole plan written down. I had everything that I was going to do from beginning to end. And my mom's like, "No, you got to go get help. This is not healthy." And I went there and I stayed there. I did therapy. I got on different medications.
Hmm.
You do different groups throughout the day. Once you come out of the padded room, you're in a room with another person. It doesn't have to be somebody that is going through the same thing as you. There was somebody, the lady that I was in the room with, she was schizophrenic, bipolar, swallow batteries. Like they could put you in a room with different people. It doesn't have to be somebody that has the same thing as you. They could be totally different, but you have to share a room with that person. Unless they physically hurting themselves or hurting you, then they separate you and put you in a different room. Put that person in a different room. But basically, it was a nightmare in there, and I felt. And after a while, after I started to come to myself and really realize and take some of these meetings and different things, because they have, there's people that are on drugs there. There's people that are alcoholics there. Some of those meetings that I went to, I was not on any drugs. I was not on any alcohol or any of that. So I was sitting in groups, some groups that didn't pertain to me.
Hmm.
So when I was there, sometimes some groups I felt like I didn't like. What am I doing here? This is not me. Why? Like this is not why am I here for? I don't feel like I would talk to my mom on the phone like, "Mom, I'm not a drug addict. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm just here to get help with my depression and my anxiety and PTSD. Like I'm not here to but that's what I had to go through in order to get through the program. I had to do every step that I, took to get through the program. And I mean, it was a nightmare. The food was disgusting. You had to like shit. You couldn't have razors. It's basically you was in jail, but you couldn't have like certain things that people in jail would have because it would be a harm to yourself. Like no shoestrings, no shirt. Like your shirt had to be like a shirt. It had to be a specific kind of like clothing. They watch you 24/7. You're on a camera because you got to make sure that you're not hurting yourself. Because people take their shirts and tie it around their neck and hang themselves. Like it's a lot of different things that I went through in there. It's a lot of different young girls that I met that was younger than me, that was older than me, that went through the same thing that I went through. And there was some girls in there that was molested, raped, all that kind of stuff. It was people in there that swallow batteries. It was people. It was just all different, and I learned a lot being here. I learned a lot being there, and I learned my lesson. Far as trying to hurt myself, I would not want anybody to experience going to a mental hospital because it's not cool. If you could talk to somebody about it, talk to somebody about it before you take that step.
So after 3 months when you were in there, you left. Did you contact this individual?
No,
Okay, so you cut all communication. Once you left the mental institution, you came home back to
Once I left, I yes.
you came home to your mom and you cut all ties with this individual. How did you feel coming out of there? Were you still taking medication? Were you still continuing therapy?
Yeah, I was doing once you leave once you're inpatient, you have they send you home on certain kind of meds. Um, you are on whatever meds that you're on, the doctor sends you home with is what he sends you home with. And then you have to go to basically what is called outpatient outpatient therapy, which the bus comes to pick you up and you got to stay there from 7 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon. They give you lunch and stuff, and you just go to meetings all day, talk about your feelings. You meet other people. I met so many different girls going through the same thing I was going through. Um, you can do individual groups. You can do like groups where you it's just you and the therapists, or you can do groups with they have it's just a lot of different groups. I went to groups all day, and that's all I did for once I got out of recovery. I did that for about a month, and then once I finished up my groups, my outpatient, taking the different meds and different things like that, I I still had to come home with, medication and different things like that. I still had therapy. They would call me and check up on me, call my mom and say, how's she doing? Different things like that. You still have to it's still a process. You still have to go through outpatient therapy. It's not just, oh, you get out and then that's it.
How long did
Because you
this
still
last?
like your mind still has to I still go to groups now. I still take
Okay.
medication now and I'm 31.
Oh, okay.
And I still deal with everyday depression, anxiety, and all that.
Do you feel the groups that you are attending are helping?
Yes, I feel like they're helping somewhat,
Mm-hmm.
and somewhat I don't,
Okay.
because some groups, it's like sometimes some of the groups, it's like, that's not me. I'm not like I don't need that. So I gear towards more. I stopped going to the individual groups. I mean the group sessions, and I just do the individual one on one with my therapist, because the groups they were saying some certain stuff that I was not feeling comfortable with speaking to like random people about, that I would speak to anybody else that I knew. So I'm more so in individual therapy right now.
Okay. So the individual therapy is definitely more of a benefit for you than the group therapy. And are you
Right.
honest? Like it,
Because
go ahead.
I feel like with the individual therapy, I can I've been with the same therapist for some years. So we have like some kind of bond where I can speak to her about anything. And when you're in the group therapy, people have their say so, or what they feel that is right for you, and some people in the groups are judgmental. So it's like I don't feel comfortable with that. I'd rather talk to somebody that I can just pour what I need to pour out, and then get positive feedback, not negative feedback.
How is your self esteem now in the relationship that you're inside? Because I know you said you still suffer from past trauma. You have
Hmm.
PTSD, which is, that's definitely prominent in relationships. I think we all have PTSD in certain traumatic situations that we've been through. But how is your self esteem now? What are you doing to work on yourself other than
I'm
therapy? What are
basically I'm
certain
more so,
tools, I mean, like you're implementing to better Psy when it comes to self esteem level? Because that's one of the big things I feel like young women, young teenagers suffer from
mhm.
extremely is their self esteem. And this is how they get caught up in toxic relationships. And toxic comes in different forms, but toxic relationships.
Right. To be honest, right now, Um, like it's not more so my self esteem, like more so with my relationship. It's more so my inner self esteem, like how I feel, I look, how I feel, how I should present myself to other people. Like my self esteem, I still feel low at times, and sometimes I still feel high at times. Like, okay, I'm fine or whatever. But with my current relationship, I don't feel like my self esteem is low. I mean,
I'm not talking
I
about your
don't, that
relationship, so
person
I'm
doesn't
going to
make me
ask you the
feel,
question again. What are you
oh,
doing
okay.
for yourself to
What am,
better Asia when it comes to your self esteem, to make yourself feel good when it comes to therapy that you're doing, either through therapy, through the medication? Are you taking walks? Are you praying? Are you doing yoga? What are you doing to better yourself based on that toxic situation that you got into? I'll come into the relationship in a moment, but I'm talking you as an individual.
okay. Oh, me as an individual. Well, I do take my medication. Sometimes I slip up and
Hmm.
not take it. But I do like, I like to do my hair. I like to do my nails. That's what I like to do. That helps me better my self esteem. I do read books. I do like prayers. I read my Bible. I do go on walks. Like I take my dog for walks sometimes. I do my, like I do self care. Like far as, talk to myself and like say, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. How can I, what am I struggling with? What can I do better to make me feel better? And I mean, it sounds weird, but I do talk to myself like, okay, self, like what are we going to do today to make Sai feel better? That I do have moments where I do talk to myself, and I'm like, okay, well, we're going to do this to make yourself feel better. And people might think it's weird, but it helps me. That's how I cope with it. That's how I deal with it. And that's what helps me. I sit, and if I feel down, I will get a Bible, or I will call my mom and talk to her about it, or I can talk to my significant other about it if I'm feeling down, or if I like, I can talk, or I'll just talk to myself. I'll go in the bathroom and talk to myself. I mean, it seems weird, but sometimes, or I'll just do whatever makes me happy. Or if I feel like, okay, well, this is not working, I'm going to change it. I'm going
Okay.
to do something to make it better. If this situation doesn't work, on to the next.
Well, that's good. I mean,
So,
talking to yourself, I hope they're not full blown conversations that are lasting
no,
10,
no, no
15,
full
20
blown
minutes.
conversations.
Sigh.
No,
Okay.
no, 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 no,
Okay. I mean,
no.
a quick, I think we all talk to ourselves like, oh my gosh, what am I wearing today? Or Shirley,
Right,
why did you drop that? Quick
right,
little,
right,
just simple
right.
responses. Girl, don't
Quick
make people
little,
think you having
right,
full
like,
blown
listen, girl,
conversations now.
right. No, no, no full blown conversations. No, just little snippets. Like, girl, why did you do that? Like,
Okay.
you could have did better.
Yeah. We all do
Like,
that.
like little snippets. Like, yeah, not full blown conversations. I'm not crazy.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank
But
you for clarifying
yeah,
that. All right. So now we're going to
you're
get
welcome.
into your relationship, because this relationship, even based on, it seems like certain things I've seen you posted, it seems this relationship, based on what you have just told me, is definitely in the healthier range. So, how long have you been in this relationship now? Because if my math is correct, you met this toxic individual when you were 17. You were with him till you were about 26. You cut things off. You're 31 now.
Mhm.
So, how long have you been in this relationship?
Yep. I took a break for a while to try
Okay.
to get myself together, but
Hmm.
this relationship, we've been together for like, I would say like 3 years now.
Okay. And how would you,
So,
and I don't want you to compare, but what
right.
is a positive in this relationship? What are the positives, I should say, not just one? What are many of the positives in this relationship that you didn't have in your other?
I would say support. I have a lot of support,
What
a
kind of
lot of
support?
comfort. a lot of, as far as like whatever that I want to do, however I feel,
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I can talk to that person. I can talk to him about anything,
Mm-hmm.
like anything personal, anything I'm feeling. I could talk to him about it and never judge.
Mm-hmm.
None of that.
That's good. That's very good. When you look at yourself today and you sit back and you think about this past relationship that you were in, and when you think of the mental, the verbal, and the physical abuse that you experience, what do you tell yourself now today at 31 when you look back at that? Do you ever ask yourself why?
Mhm. I ask myself why all the time. Why did I ever go through that? Why didn't I leave sooner?
What did you learn
I asked
from that
myself that
relationship?
before.
Because even mistakes are a lesson learned, because there are probably certain boundaries, I'm assuming, Sai, that you may have set in place, which I'm
Mhm.
hoping even now through that relationship, you've set certain boundaries of what is okay for you, what is not okay. And why don't you share with us what are a few boundaries, pick one, two, or three, that you have set now based off of that relationship that you went through, certain things you may didn't like that you implemented now?
Um, respect,
Well,
trust,
respect comes.
loyalty.
So I'm going to ask again. So respect and loyalty is important
Okay.
in all relationships. To me,
Right.
that is not even a boundary, because if you're entering a situation
Right. Right.
where respect is an issue from the start, then you
Mhm.
really need to be attentive to that immediately. Everyone should respect you. One thing I
Right.
teach my kids, even if you
Right.
don't like somebody, respect goes a long way. And you just have to be respectful
Right.
with people that you may not care for. You have different people that you work with at your job, but you still have to respect them. And when I say respect, I'm talking about something as simple as please, thank you, just using your manners, just being mindful of how you speak to people. So, respect is always important. So, when I say boundaries, I'll give you an example of a boundary. So, Khalif and myself, we share our story comfortably. There's been infidelity on both parts. So, on infidelity for us, we've both experienced it. So, when I say a boundary may be something like, prime example, Khalif and I have a boundary where we both have agreed that, you know, he's not going to come home late. And if he is going to come home late, it is very important that you contact me and let me know your whereabouts and where you are. That way I know you're safe and I know how to contact you. So that's a relationship boundary that we have set for each other based on our past experiences and situations that we've been in. We set that boundary both for each other. We both come to a mutual agreement that that is something that's fair and comfortable for the both of us. So for me, an individual boundary that I've set for myself, it could be something like any relationship that I get into. It doesn't matter if I was with Khalif or if I chose to be with someone else. I'm always going to put myself up high on that pedestal before I put anybody else. When I started my relationship, I was young, dumb, naive, didn't know any better. I was 15, he was 16. He was sitting higher on that pedestal than I was. He was here, I was here, and I didn't realize that wasn't how it was supposed to be. I just didn't know any better. So I come first. My needs come first. I make sure I'm okay first. It could be either through self care. It could be something as, making sure I make time for myself, making sure I'm in a good place. So when I say what boundaries you have set in place, it can be an example of, you know, maybe I have set a boundary in my relationship where once we start getting upset with each other, we ask each other to give each other 5 minutes or give each other 24 hours, because in the past relationship, and that may be a traumatic issue or a trigger for you, because maybe this last individual was constantly yelling at you and you couldn't talk to him, you know. So that's what I mean by like a boundary. Definitely not. I feel like you were naming qualities or
Okay.
characteristics when it comes to respect and loyalty, but what boundaries that you have set based on what you experience that is important for you. And even if you have one, it could be something as like, we don't yell at each other. I don't know. I'm just making this up, but that's what I'm saying by boundaries. Boundaries can be
Okay.
different for everybody, but even if it's small, it's still a boundary because it's something that's important to Syaisha.
Right. Well, a boundary that we have is if we do get frustrated with each other, we talk about it, not scream and yell. That is one of them. Another one is similar to you and Khalif with the whole phone situation. Call me, make sure I'm okay, check on me, see how I'm doing, see how you doing. Text me, say how your day is.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just leave me on red and
Mm-hmm.
not communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's basically the boundaries that we have.
That's good. Well, that's good. That's still a boundary, and it's whatever works for your relationship. Do you guys live together now?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm assuming this living situation is much better than your last living situation. And are you living with his family or your family?
No, we live. He lives
Just
with me.
you,
We live
y'all
together
just live together.
in
There's
my
no
house.
parents living in the home.
Mhm.
Okay. Well,
No.
that's good. That's
No.
good. Now, based on what you went through with this relationship, are these the only two relationships that you've had?
Well, long term, yeah.
Okay, so you've been with other people, but these are the only two long term. So even in the 9 year relationship, did you guys break up at some point in time and you dated other people?
Yeah, I tried to, but it
It
didn't
was
work.
just
It
hard.
didn't
You
work out.
couldn't keep your focus because you were so
It was just
focused on
like
that
I couldn't keep.
individual.
Yeah. On. Right. Right.
So before we get into the top three things that we're going to talk about, what is the final thing
Mhm.
that you feel helped you finally release this person? What what do you think finally made
Um.
you realize that you had to give this individual up? Do you think it was committing yourself to the
That
psych ward?
I think when I had the thought of killing myself was the last straw. When when I looked at myself and I had to, when I physically looked at the paper and said, is this what I really want to do? Like, this is not healthy. And we had the last blow up and fight and then the whole baby situation. And I'm like, is this what I really want to do? Like, this is not, it's not worth it. Me losing everything for this, it's not worth it. So, me mentally in my head, saying that I wanted to hurt myself, physically writing it down on a piece of paper, looking at it like, okay, this is my plan. And I had to think about in the back of my head, like, no, I cannot do this because if I take my life, he's still going to be living his life while I'm dead in the grave,
Mm-hmm.
while my mom's crying and my family's crying and everybody's looking. And then what I'm going to be sitting in the grave while he's still doing whatever he's going to do. So I physically had, so that was the last straw for me.
Gotcha. So my question for you is, as we enter into these top three questions, what message do you have for a 17-year-old that is in a relationship that might be toxic in any way, shape, or form, whether it's verbal, mental, physical, spiritual, financial, toxic. It all falls under that. What message do you have for them based on what you went through? One message that you have, what you learned.
Um, I learned that it's I learned that it's more to life than just one person. You have to love yourself first before you can love anybody else. You have to know your self-worth as a woman, and don't just sit there and take the abuse, take all of that for just one person, when you could find when it what can it could be someone else that can replace, can be better, could be better for you. The situation could be, if this situation is toxic, just leave. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know it's hard to leave, but just think about yourself, because sometimes people in that relationship, in your relationship, you don't think about yourself. You don't think about all of that. You just think about, oh, this person, that person, what they may think. Who cares what they may think? Just at that point, leave, because it's not worth hurting yourself. You still have a whole life to live. You're still young. You're still going to venture multiple situations than just one.
That's correct. You
And
definitely,
I learned never to look back. And
yeah,
I learned
definitely.
from don't look back. Keep going forward. And if you feel in your heart and your relationship or whatever you're going through currently, if you feel those triggers, that mean it ain't right.
Definitely. To top off what you said, if you are 17, 18, 19, and age doesn't matter, I throw those numbers out there, but even if you are 29, 30, 31,
Mm-hmm.
32, and in a toxic relationship, number one, do understand that it is not your fault. It's never your fault. It's that
Right.
individual who needs to check themselves and realize that something is wrong with them, and they need to figure out
Right.
what it is that they need to work with. Number one, always remember it's never your fault, whatever toxic situation you are enduring right now. And as I said, don't look back. We all go through different traumatic situations. And who am I to say that someone's traumatic situation is less than mine or my traumatic situation is more than them? I remember when I went through my infidelity, I hit rock bottom. I went through depression, and I thought I was the only one experiencing it. And that's what my mind wanted me to believe. Even though logically I know this is something that has been going on, presently going on, and will continue to go on. But my mind wanted me to believe that, you know, something was wrong with me, and I need to get myself together, or what's the problem? What am I doing wrong? And this is what goes through your head. And then even when I cheated also myself, it was just, I had to ask myself why. So regardless what your traumatic situation is, stay focused and don't allow anybody to blame you, because it's never you. It's always them. I knew I was the problem. I knew I had my own problems. One thing I remember my therapist saying to me was, if you think that you better than this individual, you better wake the fuck up, Shirley, because neither of you are better than each other. All y'all know is each other.
Right.
And he's talking about Khalif and myself. He said, all y'all know is each other. And you have really nothing else to compare it to right now. Two toxic people that are together. So
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't mean I was any better than anybody. And that thinking is wrong, to think that you're better than someone. Everyone is going through something. I made the decision to make a poor decision. He made a decision to make a poor decision. I definitely don't believe in Once a cheater, always a cheater. I do believe that people change, but we have to be strong enough to get out of toxic situations. And that's what's hard. Um, it's hard because there is something that is allowing us to stay there. There is some satisfaction that is being brought to us, even in a toxic situation, that is hard for us to believe. You know, when we think of women who are in domestic situations and, you know, your girlfriend calls you and she may say something like, he hit me again. And in your mind, you're thinking, like, why won't she leave? It's hard for you to really truly understand what that person is going through. And there is some sense of satisfaction or joy that that person is bringing them. As hard as it may be to believe, it's hard for us to understand, but it had to be told to me for me to realize, yeah, that's logical. Obviously, there is some satisfaction that is being brought to me of why I'm staying in a situation maybe that doesn't serve me anymore. Why can't I walk away in this toxic situation that I'm in? That's the question you need to ask yourself. What is allowing you to stay? Because we all know if we go to a department store, if we go to a restaurant and we're disrespected, are we going to allow another human being to disrespect us? Most definitely not. You're going to stand up for yourself. So why is it so hard for us to do in relationships? That's the question we need to ask. So the second thing, Sai, is what have you learned in all of this? What have Sai learned in this situation?
Um, I learned to put myself first and worry about what side wants and not what everybody else. And I learned to, if it gets too toxic, it's time to go.
Mm-hmm. And that's the simplest way you can say it. Learn to put yourself first. A lot of times we don't do that. It's hard, but we always have to remember you come first.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter what your title is in this job: wife, girlfriend, mother, niece, aunt. You put yourself first in every situation, because if you are not taking care of yourself, you are definitely not a benefit to others. And last thing,
Right.
Sai, is what are you doing for new growth right now? Like, one thing I definitely applaud you is coming on to this podcast and sharing your story, because it is hard, because judgment is placed on us every single day. Social media allows us to look at other people's relationships at times and we want to compare, and we think, well, why can't my relationship be like that, when behind closed doors it's some crazy ass shit going on that we just don't see, don't hear, or don't know about. There's always going to be a piece of your life that's going to be private. I know many times people listen to me talking, they listen to the podcast, and they assume that Shirley's just putting all her information out there. But what the listeners, I want you to remember is, out of a big piece of pie at 100%, you're only getting about 2% of what's going on in my life. 2% of what's going on in my life as an individual, what's going on in my life as a relationship. For my listeners, for people on social media, they may think they're getting it all. And that's okay, because for you, it's new information. For you, it sounds really good and interesting and it sounds like gossip. But all I'm doing is sharing with you, because I know there are other women going through situations out there that they have no one to turn to. They have questions in their mind of what they should do. And this is why it's important I bring guests such as Sai and other guests that I have on the show to share their stories, to let people know that you are not alone in what you're going through. And we are going to meet you at wherever road we're at, and we're going to talk about this. And opening up and hearing other people and talking about it is also a sense of relief. Sometimes holding everything in and being so private to the point where you don't want to talk about something because of either shame, or you don't want your family to think something, or you don't want your friends to think something, or people might not like you. But how is that helping you grow? All you're doing, in my opinion, is just staying stagnant in the situation that you're in, because you're scared to talk about a situation that many of us have gone through. So I do appreciate you coming on the show, Sai, to talk about what you've been through.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I know you more than any other guest that I've had on the show. You, and I've actually known a couple guests, but you and a few other guests I definitely know more about. So I do thank you for coming on the show,
Mm-hmm.
because it takes a
You're
lot.
welcome.
It definitely takes a lot, and it is nerve-wracking, because then, it's the little voices like, oh, did she just come on and she just shared her information? How dare her? And I'm not talking about you in general, Si. I'm just talking about people in general.
Mm-hmm.
But each time someone
Right.
hears a guest sharing their story, it's even if it's just a message to one woman out there, it makes me happy. So, my last question for you is, how were you able to find the courage to do what you're doing now?
I don't even know, to be honest. Um, it's I just been through so much, and I just I wanted to try something different. I wanted to see if I could, love again, and I wanted to see if maybe it might be something there again, and I can trust again, and I can. So that's kind of what made me go out. I don't want to sit in a shell and just because of one situation. I just wanted to try. I wanted to try it again, and it seems like it's working better.
Good, good. It's good to have a positive outlook in life. We have one life. We need to live it to the best of our
Mhm.
abilities. Mistakes are going to happen, and that's okay. It is okay for mistakes to happen. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes. What's the bad thing is not learning for your mistakes and consistently being a repeat
Right.
offender and not doing anything to grow. I always tell people, in my honest opinion, you
Mhm.
should not still be the same person you were at 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. There should be growth. You should look at things
Right.
differently. You should do things differently, in a healthy way, of course. We all have different beliefs. We all see things differently. But at 39 years old, I should not be the same person I was at 29. The question is, am I
Mhm.
growing? Am I learning? Am I wanting to do better? Now I understand when I was 17 and 18 what they mean, like age brings wisdom, because it definitely does. Because my thinking
Right.
now is
And
not what it
sometimes,
was back then.
right. And sometimes I look like when I think about it, I look back and I be laughing like, what the heck? Why didn't I like at certain situations? I be like, girl, I should have never did that.
Hmm.
Like I be laughing at myself sometime. I have to go back and like laugh at myself like, what the heck was I thinking?
Yeah, and that's a good thing. That means growth, girl. When you can look back at, your timeline and you're like, my God, what
Yes.
was I thinking? What was
Like
going
what
through
was I
my
thinking
mind?
about?
Yeah, why would I even allow myself to be in that situation? But Sai, that's growth. That's growth when you can look back at yourself and just be
Hmm.
like, I know I'm doing better now, because that right there, And that's what you
Yes.
call growth. And that's a good
I
thing.
would have never I would have never tolerated what I tolerate today. What I tolerate back then, I'm not doing that now.
That's a good
So
thing. So, as we end the show today, Sai, again, I want to thank you for being a guest. Thank you for
mhm.
finding the courage to share your story and being on the
You're
show.
welcome.
And my
Hmm.
listeners, remember, thank you guys for tuning in every week. And remember to love yourself, voice yourself, and be yourself. Until the next podcast, guys, have a great one. Thanks for tuning in to Fampale Podcast. If you want to continue the conversation or share your takeaways, I want to hear from you. Head on over to the website or join our Facebook community and comment your favorite part of the show or share your thoughts. I want to hear what you have to say. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Chat with you next week.